Tobiasen. Here's Mason. Crossing half court. Moretti cannot afford to foul.
Heartbreak in Birmingham. A disappointing performance from the men's squad sends the Owls home with a season-ending L.
Open for three.
And a turned-up Kayla Turner still wasn't enough to take the women past the second round on their side of the American postseason tournament.
And I'm Tamar Stubbs, live from the studio set. Later in the show, I will look at the Men's American Conference postseason awards and see how they lined up with my predictions from a few shows ago.
And I'm Haley Smith, live at the Liacouras Center. Later, I will join Tamar to break down the American Conference awards and give my grades for each of the two Temple teams. Courts in Session is live and starts right now.
Hello and welcome into TV Studio 3 for the final Temple episode of Courts in Session for the 2026 season. I'm Xavier Adams and he's Pat Dallahan, fresh off his trip to Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah, don't I look a little bit tanner? I wish I could say I brought back some gifts from my time at the American Conference Tournament, but similar to the men's and women's basketball programs, I flew back both early and empty-handed. Last Wednesday night, Temple went toe-to-toe with a familiar feathered foe in the first round of the American Conference Tournament, the Florida Atlantic Owls. This season, FAU had its way with Temple, sweeping the regular season series 2-0. But with their season on the line, the Cherry and the White tried to avoid the season sweep at just the right time. Temple FAU round 3 underway in Birmingham. In the absence of guard Devin Vanterpool, FAU needed a pick-me-up performance, and in the first half, that came from Kanan Carlisle. 3 of his 5 makes on the night came in the first frame, including this transition layup. Later in the half, Temple went without a bucket for 3.5 minutes, but Aiden Tobiasen saves the day. The tough runner snaps the Owls' scoreless streak. About 75 seconds later, hey, we just saw this guy. It's Kanan Carlisle again. He knocks down his second 3 of the first half, and FAU heads to the break with a 2-point lead.
Into the middle of the second half we go, and Temple starts down 2. FAU has possession. Carlisle finds Nicola Moretti to knock down the 3 ball as Moretti continues his dominant offensive night. Bottom of the half now, Temple in transition. Jordan Mason kicks it to Ford, who through contest knocks down the 3 ball from the wing to keep Temple in it, down just 6 points. Temple still down with about a minute left, and now they're playing the foul game. Anything to stop the clock, but Nico Moretti breaks free through the full court press and gets yet another layup to fall. He ended his night with 19 points. Temple down 2, one last chance to tie it at least. Ford has it, is driving, and it's stripped away. The Ford lost his focus, and with no more time left, Temple loses the game. FAU wins and ends Temple's season. Final score, 63-59. In a game where they needed their absolute best in order to save their season, the Owls submitted another losing score sheet. The leading scorer for Temple was, of course, Darian Ford, who had 16, but did so on just 40% from the field. Following him was Aiden Tobiasen with 12 and Jordan Mason with 10. As a team, Temple shot a subpar 38% from the field and an even lower 22% from the field. It made way for Nico Moretti to drop 19 points and lead FAU to a conference tournament win in the Battle of the Owls.
Look, obviously, not the result that we wanted. Coming into the tournament, I thought we played a really good 2 games this past week. Obviously, it's been a really difficult, not just 30 days, but been really difficult since January with stuff that we've dealt with. My disappointment is for these guys because I thought they fought all year long. I thought they gave us everything they could. And we had a lot of guys step up in the roles that they haven't been in. And I thought that was a great testament to them.
I feel like physicality They did a great job. Like, kudos to them. They executed their game plan, whatever they wanted to do as far as defensive schemes. But we didn't convert it like we usually do at the rim. Starting with me, didn't convert like I wanted to, but they did what they needed to do. So great job to them.
Let's bring in our Courts in Session beat reporter, Haley Smith, who is live at the Liacouras Center. Haley, obviously hindsight is 20/20, but when you look back at this season, and more specifically the last 8 losses of the year, at which point did you realize that this Temple team was in some trouble?
Yeah, that loss to FAU on the road was a tough one for them. It was game number 5 of a 6-game losing streak and a tough schedule to follow. They were up by 6 at halftime, but in the second half, they were outscored by 10. Those scoring droughts really became an issue during that game and followed the rest of the season.
So, Haley, it's a college offseason. Players are going to transfer. Players are going to graduate. Who do you think from this Temple squad is going to be the biggest loss for this roster?
You probably could guess it, but it's Darian Ford as their leading scorer. But he also stepped up as a leader for the team as a whole and to boost attitudes when they really got down into those scoring droughts. He drove to the basket and forced some fouls to kind of lift heads and get them back in some of those tough games.
Thanks, Haley. Excellent stuff. But let's continue that thought on Darian Ford. If you're looking for something to feel good about from the men's season, look no further than Ford. The Owls' leading guard was recently named to the American Conference third team and was also named to the all-newcomer team for the conference. In the American, Ford finished in 4th place in total points, average points per game, and in free throw percentage. His excellent 85% from the charity stripe led to him being ranked 35th in the nation in free throws made. He scored double-digit points in 29 out of 30 games played and certainly left his mark as an Owl. So, Pat, Darian Ford, one of the Owls that we're going to see have to unfortunately move on from the program, and really it was a program that throughout the season we saw really just fall apart as we got to the later half of the year. That we keep talking about it, but that 6-game losing streak right in the middle of conference play, the injury, it was just a real brick wall that they slammed into after being set up for a good season.
Right. I mean, on February 11th, they were playing for 2nd place in the American Conference. A win over Tulane would have gotten them that. And honestly, I think that they just looked a little too far ahead. Right? Adam Fisher said it after the loss in North Texas. They're not playing to the standings, and you can't play to the standings. And I kind of called him out on that and said that you have to, and boy, was I wrong, right? It feels like they didn't necessarily play where their feet were. Granted, what they had to deal with throughout this season, it's not unreasonable to see, what transpired after the fact. But at the same time, it also doesn't excuse ending your season with, 8 losses in your last 9 games, another first-round exit in the conference tournament for Temple. It's just incredibly frustrating. And there were some pretty high highs in this season. The win over USF, the win over Hofstra, that's 2 wins over teams in the NCAA tournament field, and they only played 3. So that's something that they could hang their hat on. But there are not a lot of moral victories in this game, especially now.
Well, it's what feels most frustrating is when you see how well poised this team was prior to entering the season. I mean, even a guy like Babatunde Duradola, I know we've been giving him a lot, and we might even more so today, but when we remember in the prior season, he was the first freshman, as a freshman last year. He was the first freshman to start 30-plus games for Temple since the 2006 season.
He was an early enrollee.
He enrolled
in August of that year.
Everybody was incredibly excited about Babatunde Duradola, and that's not to say he didn't do anything this season. He obviously brought some value and stuff to the court, but just nowhere near what they really needed and were looking for from him. We've talked about it time and time again. His season high in rebounds was 9 rebounds. That is your starting center. Not one person on the team hit double-digit rebounds. We were talking about that before the show. An absurd stat. Not one person in one game hit double-digit rebounds for the Temple squad.
And what's really upsetting about, whenever the Temple season comes to an end the way it does, I would say we can't expect to see 90% of the guys in this team back next year, right?
I would put a lot of money
realistically speaking, with where Temple is within the college basketball landscape, if you could come out of this offseason keeping Gavin Griffiths, at least Gavin Griffiths, and by the grace of God, Aiden Tobiasen, right? That would be a remarkably successful offseason. But just where Temple is with financials and where other teams are within the league, and the teams around them in the same town, Villanova, St. Joe's, are already portal hunting. So It's really frustrating to see where Temple is within the landscape of college basketball, but it's time to switch gear from one disappointing loss to another. We're up on our first break of the show.
And when we return, we're sending things over to the women, who only made it one game farther than the men and lost to the eventual conference champs. Courts is back in 90. Welcome back to Courts in Session. We're tipping off in the first round of the Women's American Tournament at Legacy Arena down in Birmingham. Sloppy ball starts it off as Shiloh Kimpson turns it over. Kayla Turner's smoked layup is recovered by Sanaya Craig on cleanup duty. The Owls maintained a lead throughout the first half and can thank Kayla Turner for it as she knocks down her third three ball already. The Temple lead is growing. Tulane with possession. McKaylin Marshall trying to make something happen and getting momentum with the layup. End of the half, Marshall again finds Dylan Hanna on the inside for the bucket and the whistle before sending it to the locker rooms.
Temple led by as many as 17 in the second quarter, and the lead is already down to 12, but Jaleesa Molina capitalizes in transition and finishes the layup. Nice move. Frantic hoops, the football pass from Shiloh Kimpson finds McKaylin Marshall for the wide open bucket. She looks like Jake Retzlaff there. Under a minute to play, Temple down 7. Kanijah Daniel cuts it to 4, and some foul shooting woes from Temple gives Daniel the chance to tie, and she does. Major onions, free basketball. A hot start to OT as Temple on a 9-0 run. Scratch that, make it 11-0. Jaleesa Molina on the wide open lay. Tulane down 6. Jada Brown and the Green Wave keep clawing back. She cuts the lead to 4 with the inbound play layup. Kayla Turner had 31 on the day, so it's only right that she puts the game on ice. Dagger game. Temple survives the first round scare and lives to fight another day, 86-77. Last Tuesday was all about Temple guard Kayla Turner, who led the contest with a ridiculous 31 points. For Temple, it was helpful enough that the junior guard made 8 of her 15 three-point attempts on the game, but it's when some of those threes came that mattered the most. 3 of Temple's 8 made threes came in the overtime period. That saw Temple outscore Tulane 16-7 in the extra frame. And on the back of Turner, the Owls soar on to the second round of the American Conference Tournament.
Now on to that second tournament match for the women's squad, where the Owls took on the UTSA Roadrunners, and they got out to a running start with an early 3-0 lead in the first quarter after Hammond's layup is good. UTSA with it again. This time Hammonds dishes it to Ariana Hardaway, who drills the 3-ball, going 50% from the line. Owls need a bucket badly, and Savannah Curry gets it, nailing the 3-ball from deep and keeping it close. But Ariana Hardaway was with the smoke. She fired back with another 3-ball on the wing. Second quarter now, Owls down 2. Maya Hammonds opens the seal on this quarter as well with a nice floater. And UTSA led throughout the quarter until Kayla Turner hits her first 3-ball of the night and sends us to the second half.
To the second we go. Hardaway calling her own numbers. She takes Kayla Turner right to the Baja for her second make of the half. Tristan Taylor does her best Jay Ducker impression and runs right through Adriana Robles. Oh, she made the floater too. Fourth quarter, Taylor finds the rolling Jaleesa Molina up for the finish. UTSA up 7, and that lead is boosted thanks to Mia Hammonds. She hauls in her only offensive board of the day and puts UTSA up 9. Later in the fourth, some active hands from Jaleesa Molina, and why not reward the one that brought you there? Savannah Curry finds her on the break with a beautiful over-the-shoulder pass. Roadrunners up 7. Adara Udo puts it out of reach. Too big, too strong, you can't guard me. A huge second half from UTSA ends the Owls' season, a final score of 60-51. Just 24 hours prior to this one, Temple found itself in overtime. So a huge talking point prior to Wednesday's battle with UTSA was energy. But after Temple's second and third quarters, it's safe to say that the energy concerns were very, very real. In the second and third frames, Temple shot a combined 5 of 31. Yeah, that's right. Good for just 16% from the floor. And with the loss, Temple ends its season with a 15-17 record, snapping their 2-season 20-win streak.
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of turnovers and a lot of missed shots down the stretch that I think also contributed to the loss. Our missed shots probably changed our energy. I think that's what it was.
I also think that our energy was just not there. Like, we didn't start with the amount of energy you said we had in the first quarter. It wasn't there in the third quarter. And yeah, we just needed that. And it wasn't there.
Yeah, well, my staff and I believe in our kids. And one of the things that we teach all year is confidence. And, when we look at our losses, single-digit losses, it's just that one little extra bit of confidence where you go after one more loose ball, one more rebound. And we believe in them. And what we've been doing all year is trying to feed them that confidence and those confidence boosters. And we still believe in them. But, as a lesson for them, understand that we believe in them and they've got to believe in themselves.
Let's bring in our second beat reporter, Tamar Stubbs, who is with us right here on the studio set. So, Tamar, this year Temple played 4 NCAA tournament teams in 4-seed West Virginia, 5-seed Michigan State, 9-seed Princeton, and 11-seed Richmond. And Temple lost all 4. If it were up to you, would you play a non-conference schedule like this again?
I think it's good experience, and I think it's great to see where Temple matches up against some of the best schools of the nation. But I would knock it down to 3, and I would focus more on, can we play with teams that's at our talent level and lower so we can get into a rhythm as we go into American Conference play and make a run in the American Conference tournament next season.
And Tamar, we saw Coach Diane Richardson try a lot of different rotations to get a lot of young players involved. Which new young star for this Temple squad do you think might elevate their role next season?
I most definitely think it's Savannah Curry. She'll be a junior next season. When her number was called this season, she was able to step up in points, assists, and steals. I think that next season she'll average double figures in points and be one of the best defenders in the American. Savannah Curry is the name to keep an eye on for the Owls.
Thanks, Tamar. Excellent stuff as always this season. But the women's season has come to a close. X-Man, obviously a year of ups and downs. You never know who was going to step off the bus for that team this season. And you can see in the results, the American Conference Tournament was kind of a microcosm for their season. If Kayla Turner didn't get going, they weren't going anywhere.
Yeah, no, that was kind of the slogan. You live by KT, you die by KT.
Right.
But we've been talking about it, but I am really excited at the young players that Coach Richardson's been developing, the Brianna Merides, the Kelly and Sedanos, because when you're trying – honestly, I feel like there was never really a shot for them to go far in the tournament because when you're trying out the rotations that she was at the point that you were in the season, you're not really relying on chemistry. You're not really relying on experience at that point. You're just looking for a hot hand. You're looking for someone else other than Kayla Turner that can produce even if a little bit because we saw in this UTSA game how stunted everybody was. Temple was out-rebounded 44-27. They got killed on the inside, and Temple lost this game despite winning the turnover battle by a wide margin. UTSA had 23 turnovers at Temple's 12, and yet they still come out with a loss.
Yeah, UTSA was kind of a nightmare matchup for that team.
Yeah.
3 starters standing over 6'1", and you and I are like 5'7", 5'8". There's some really big players.
Yeah.
And it showed in the way that they played. Like, I thought Jaleesa Molina played her single best defensive game of the year. She forced Cheyenne Rowe, who was first team All-League last year, to really get some difficult catches, right?
Yeah.
She forced her to start making her catches at the three-point line instead of on the block or instead of on the nail, and it just wasn't enough. They were able to kick it to Mia Hammonds or Adara Yado, and it just... when there's not that much size and physical talent, you talked about experience or leadership, veteran presence, it's hard to find yourselves coming out on top in games like that.
Both teams in this game, their bench scored less than 5 points.
Terrible,
but that's been a huge consistent. It's obviously more of a problem for Temple than it was for UTSA, considering UTSA got the win. But I feel like that at this point, because it's the bench is the roster at this point. There was only 2 players in that game that didn't hit double-digit minutes for Temple. So they were really trying every rotation possible. I think it's very evident that they really were just throwing stuff at a wall towards the end of the season and seeing what stuck. They were trying to get guys.
And nothing did stick.
Nothing really did stick except for the occasional Kayla Turner 20-point game. That's all you could really rely on.
Yeah.
Another tough end to a season for the Temple women's team. We are up against another break, however, but don't leave us yet.
When we return, it's time to put on the teaching caps and hand out some grades. Xavier and I have season grades along with team MVP awards and some breakdowns from our beat reporters. Courts is back soon. Welcome back to Courts in Session. Both the men and women's basketball seasons are over, and they may not have won any titles, but we have some awards of our own to give out.
We have a couple of categories to get through, so why don't we kick things off with the team MVPs? And starting off with the MVP for the men, I have to go with my guy, Darian Ford.
You knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming, Pat. I wouldn't shut up about him all season, and that's because he was one of the few consistent bright spots for this Temple team. His ability to get to the rim and his ability to finish, along with that combined ability to draw fouls when you needed them the most, it really just set him apart on this Temple team. And you couple that with the fact that he led his team in scoring all year. He was undoubtedly the biggest offensive weapon for this Temple men's team, and for that, he's my men's team MVP.
On to the women's squad, where it was a no-brainer for me as well. I went with Kayla Turner. She was the only player on the team to shoot more than 300 shots. Nobody else shot more than 200. She was the only player on the team to shoot more than 200 threes. Nobody else shot more than 125. She shot till her arms far off. I like Kevin Durant way back in the day. And she was second on the team in assists per game at 2.6. The numbers don't lie. It was clear that she was the focal point of the offense night in and night out. She is my most valuable player. On to our next award, the most surprising player. Just like how Xavier wouldn't shut up about Darian Ford, I wouldn't shut up about this guy right here. That's Swish Gilliard, the former Manhattan Jasper. We know what he brings to the table in terms of rebounding. He was 141st in America in offensive rebounding rate this year. But in Temple's losing streak, he really stepped up when guys like Gavin Griffiths, Aiden Tobias, and Jordan Mason went incognito mode. It was him that stepped up. 5 of those 6 losses saw Swish Gilliard record double-digit scoring on 50% shooting. Swish, the most surprising player of the year.
Yeah, Swish coming a big part of that rotation. For the women's most surprising player, I'm going to go with the sophomore, Kellyanne Sedano. Earlier in the season, she didn't really get many minutes as the offensive efficiency was starting to drop throughout the season. However, we saw Coach Diane Richardson start to try out new rotations, as we were saying earlier, and she actually ended up finding a ton of value in the sophomore, Kellyanne Sedano. She hit her career high when she dropped 16 against FAU, and she led her team that night while coming off of the bench, to note. And so should Kellyanne Sedano return, I really see her having an elevated role with this Temple squad next season. But wrapping things up now with the defensive player, or excuse me, keeping things going with the defensive player of the year, I'm actually going to go with Gavin Griffiths. Now, obviously, when you look at the offensive, it can kind of be shaky, but he was rated top 3 on the team defensively, and he proved that he was able to bring some value despite those cold offensive streaks. He's first place on the team in rebounds, averaging 4.9. First place in blocks, averaging 1.8, and he's tied for first in steals, averaging 1.2. It felt like somewhat of a disappointing season overall for Gavin Griffiths, but if you just focus on solely the defense, your perspective may start to shift a little bit.
Yeah, on the women's side, it's another person who we were really hard on defensively in Jaleesa Molina. Offensively, it wasn't there all season for her, but defensively is where she really shined. She was tied for first on the team in blocks per game, tied for first on the team in steals per game, and second on the team in rebounds per game at 7.4. I talked about it earlier in the show. She had her single best defensive performance of the year against Cheyenne Rowe, one of the better players in the American Conference overall, and she really shut her down, made the game really difficult for her. For me, she is my defensive player of the year on the women's side. And let's be a little bit more positive in this next award. Moment of the season for the men, another no-brainer for me. The win over USF, the whiteout on a Saturday night in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Where else would you rather be against the American Conference Coach of the Year, Player of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, 3 All-League team members, and 3 All-Newcomer team members? And what happened? Mo Keita, 2 foul shots at the end of the game, ice in his veins, ends it. Mo Keita, the moment of the year, the win over USF.
Loved that game. I also loved the other best moment of the season for the women's squad, which was when they secured the largest comeback in program history against the Charlotte 49ers all the way back in January. Tristan Taylor dropped a career-high 32 points that game and led her team to the largest comeback in program history after storming back 26 ridiculous 26 points. The Owls outscored Charlotte 29-6 in that fourth quarter alone, and they held a lead for simply 3 seconds in that game, and they got the win for it. Those were our postseason awards for the Temple men's and women's basketball squads. We have another break, but we aren't done with you all just yet.
When we return, we're handing out overall grades for the men's and women's squad. Courts, back in 90.
Welcome back to Courts in Session. The Temple men's and women's regular seasons are over, which means it's time for some final grades. Professor Pat and I crunched the numbers from throughout the season and have locked in our grades for each squad. So, Professor P, let's hear it.
All right, X-Man, I'll start things off, or should I say Professor X? I'll start things off on the women's side. Heading into this year, expectations around the team were high. They were picked to finish 4th in the American Conference preseason poll after back-to-back 20-win seasons. But that was way back in October, and it's safe to say things did not go to plan for Diane Richardson and company, finishing the year as the 7th seed. Sure, this was a young squad, so it's easy to see how the season slipped away. But after the preseason expectations, I'll give the women a C-. The men's season was, at best, tumultuous. On February 11th, this was a team that was playing for 2nd place in the league. Fast forward to March, not so much. The end of the season left a bad taste in everyone's mouths, losing 8 of their last 9 games, including a 6-game losing streak. This squad was picked to finish 9th in the preseason and ended up finishing 10th come March, a slight regression from preseason expectations. But I'm going to give them some grace. This was a group that suffered an unimaginable loss in the death of assistant coach Bill Courtney, something I couldn't fathom having to play through and something I will always respect this group for doing. With this, I'll give the men a flat C. X-Man, let's see your grade sheet.
Starting with the men, I'm going to unfortunately have to be the mean professor here and give them a D+. The men's team has admittedly, like you said, Pat, been through a lot of challenges and ups and downs that has had an incredible effect on their season's results. However, there were just too many instances of Temple dropping incredibly close and winnable games for me to look past. The Owls lost at least 9 games this season by 5 or fewer points and had a brutal 6-game losing streak in the middle of conference play. It was the kind of team that when the problems rained, they just poured. And now for the women, I'll be giving them a grade just slightly above the men with a C- as well. The women were projected in the preseason to finish top 5 in the American. They obviously didn't reach that projection and ended their season in the 7th seed. Right now, the reason I still have them slightly above the men is because of the level of experience on their team, plus that 1 extra conference tournament win. This is a team without a single senior on the roster, meaning that while they fell short of expectations this season, they could very well be building something exciting for the future should someone be maybe able to shut down that wicked transfer portal. But Mr. Stubbs, it is now your turn.
Well, Mr. Adams, I think the correct label is Professor Stubbs, tenure track, by the way. Up first for the men, their season was very rocky on and off the court this season. The Owls caught fire winning a 7-game streak, the longest in a decade, but I have to dock some points due to their 6-game losing streak. It wasn't all about losing games, it was the fashion in which they lost. From being a 2 seed to imploding, dropping close conference game after close conference game. Added with this team not being able to put together a full game late into the season, I have to give the men a D+. Now for the women, Temple women's basketball was the definition of average at 15 and 17. They were very inconsistent on a nightly basis. I don't know who was going to show up except for Sanaya Craig. It's mid-grade for a mid-team. I'm giving the women a C-. Haley, did the Owls pass your test?
You guys have been tough on these teams, and I'm not giving them any passes either. The men fell short of my expectations with an overall record of 16 and 16. The beginning of the season, we saw strings of wins followed by strings of losses, and that ended up being the theme for the season. There were wins against teams like ECU in South Florida, where there was a full team effort, but there were too many games where key players weren't producing. I give Adam Fisher's Owls a C-. The women's season looked pretty similar when it came to high highs and low lows, but theirs were often in the same game. Turnovers and lapses in confidence caused big issues for the Owls this season. They picked things up by the end of the season, but not enough to make a run in the postseason. I give them a C. These Temple teams have gotten their teams, and we're up on another break. When Tamar and I return, we'll take a look at how we did in our American Conference award predictions. We'll see you in 90 seconds.
Welcome back. A few weeks prior, Haley and I gave some of our American postseason awards predictions. So today, we will look at the official award winners and see how they pair up.
There were a couple players who came out with more than one award. Tamar, start us off with the men.
First, I have the American Conference Player of the Year. I predicted Darian Ford, and I stand by that. At the time, Temple was one of the top-seeded teams in the American, with Ford being the most consistent scorer on the team and the American. Now, Isaiah Nelson officially wins Player of the Year, and honestly, I'm not upset at this one bit. He was manning the paint for USF, racking up double-doubles, a huge reason for USF's success. For Newcomer of the Year, I predicted correctly, as Isaiah Nelson comes home with another award. The Arkansas State transfer was the highest impact transfer in the American. For Defensive Player of the Year, I picked Devin Williams, who averages the most block shots in the American. But it's starting to feel like deja vu. Isaiah Nelson officially winning this one as well. My goodness, Isaiah Nelson is looking like Michael Jackson at the Grammys. For Freshman of the Year, I was correct on Josiah Parker. He has been great for FAU this season. For Most Improved, I picked Aiden Tobias, and I stand by that as well, who made a huge jump for the Owls. But Devin Vanterpool of FAU wins it, averaging 15 points this season from 2 points last season. Haley, you're up.
Thanks, Tamar. We'll start off with Player of the Year, Victoria Flores from Rice. She was a leading scorer for the Owls, who lost in the conference championship finals. Flores scored 402 points this season and had 95 assists. Now for Defensive Player of the Year, there are two recipients, Kennedy Fauntleroy from ECU and my pick, Megan Nestor from North Texas. Fauntleroy recorded 86 steals and 26 blocks for the Pirates, while Nestor averaged 14 rebounds per game and led the Mean Green in steals with 49. Freshman of the Year goes to McKellen Marshall from Tulane. She was the second leading scorer for the Green Wave with about 10 points per game, shooting 38% from the field. Next is Most Improved Player of the Year, Shelby Hayes from Rice. Hayes was my pick for Most Improved with an average of 12 points per game compared to 4 last season. Finishing strong with Newcomer of the Year and another correct prediction of mine is Kennedy Fauntleroy. Fauntleroy finished the season leading ECU in points, assists, steals, and blocks per game. The conference standings were tight all season thanks to these players who had standout performances week after week.
Yes, even though I couldn't predict the Men's American Conference postseason awards correctly, anyone with a pulse can predict what's coming up next.
Really well done, Tamar. Really, really good joke. Thanks from you two. Always excellent stuff. We have one final break upon us, and we think you'll want to be here after.
Because you know it, you love it so much, you wish you could hug it. It's the Pulse Check, and Courts is back in 90. Welcome back to the final regular edition of Courts in Session. The games have been played, the praises have been sung. It's finally time
to check that pulse. It's March. There's so much basketball on. Let's not waste any more breath.
None. Pat, we have to get going. Purdue upsetting Michigan in the Big Ten Championship. A huge, huge game. Does this shake your faith in Michigan at all?
Kind of. I mean, Elliot Cadeau was excellent all season. His shooting really improved from North Carolina to now. On Sunday, though, I mean, that was dreadful. Purdue was able to just hide and drop coverage. They know that Braden Smith isn't good enough to guard him coming off of a screen. They just got away with not guarding him from beyond the arc, and it worked. I'm not worried about Michigan. They still could be my national champ. Hashtag not worried.
They could, but Purdue now the number 2 seed. Michigan still a number 1 alongside Duke, Arizona, and Florida. What are your thoughts on those 1 seeds? Any misses there?
Yeah, I think that they nailed it. Florida went on a ridiculous win streak within SEC play. Duke beat Michigan, who at the time was the number 1 overall seed. Now, without Caleb Foster, I am really worried about Duke. Is Caden Boozer going to be stepping up and being able to be a playmaker? Is Isaiah Evans going to be a little bit more assertive as a scorer? Dame Sarr, Arizona, we know what we're getting from them. You're a big Arizona guy, so I'm interested to hear how you feel about them.
I am a big Arizona guy. I love Arizona, but I am worried. And the only team that really worries me about Arizona is Houston, because Houston already got a win. I'm not going to – maybe we'll make our pick sometime soon.
That means that you have them meeting in the national championship game?
Per chance. I won't reveal too early, but I do have Houston going pretty far. Houston is the only school that scares me, but a school that we still need to talk about is Miami, Ohio. They made the tournament despite having that one loss during their during the MAC tournament. So we still got them going in. They're the final, very bottom, number 64 seed. Do you think they deserve to get in?
Yes. I unequivocally, Bruce Pearl, Auburn, I know that your coach is the son of the team. I get that. You're going to support him regardless. But what's really frustrating is, like, why play the games, right? They went 31-0 in the regular season. Granted, they lost to Frank Martin, which anybody else in that situation, losing to Frank Martin in 2026, you're done for the year. So I am happy. I think the committee got it right. Do you think they got it right?
I do think they got it right. I think there's just no reality in which a team wins 30-plus games.
Yep.
They don't make the NCAA tournament. I think that you can make all the arguments you want about conferences, about this and this. At the end of the day, every school's job is the same exact thing, and Miami just did it better than most schools.
Yeah, speaking of winning 30-plus games, the UConn women's
How about
Huskies.
70-plus, Pat?
Yeah, true that. UConn, the number 1 overall seed, followed up by South Carolina, UCLA, and Texas.
This is the most dominant-looking top 4 seeds I think I've ever seen. Every single one of these schools beats each team that they play by like 50
A billion.
points.
It's remarkable.
Running into either of these schools is like the most terrifying thing I think you can do as a female basketball player. Absolutely scary stuff.
Yeah, and to me, I'm going to pick UConn to win it all again. I just don't trust the rosters from a lot of these teams. If anybody else is to win the Women's National Championship, it's UCLA. On the back of Lauren Betts. A ridiculous story. She's been phenomenal all season long.
Yep. Well, now just because today's Pulse Check is over and done with does not mean that our crew is done with the wild and wicked world of college basketball.
For the next 3 weeks, our crew will have its first ever Pulse Check editions of Courts in Session, where we'll break down all the madness from the NCAA men's and women's tournaments. It's the postseason edition of Courts in Session.
We'll have the latest on all the upsets, the chalks, and most importantly, my perfect bracket for the next 3 Tuesdays at noon on TUTV. We can't wait to see you there.
For coverage on all other Temple athletics, we will still have our weekly Owl Sports Update show airing every Thursday at noon, where this week Kayla Levine and Gabriel Liddington are bringing you all the coverage.
For everyone here in TV3, I'm Xavier Adams. He's Pat Dallahan. Good luck with your brackets. We all know we're going to need it.